students, welcome to our next lecture on BMGP lecture series, that is on the maintenance and overhauling of the drive lines, that is the second part of differential and the axle. In the first part we saw about the removal of the axle, also the removal of the differential from the axle. Once we remove the axle from the vehicle, then we need to disassemble the differential from it. Now let's see the differential disassembly, like how to disassemble the differential after removing the assembly of the differential from the rear axle. That can be done with the help of, when we remove the differential from the rear axle, the next thing needs to be done is that the internal four spider gears can be easily taken out from the differential. The carrier and the ring gear can be disassembled by removing the nut and the washer which is connected to the carrier and the ring gear. Next thing is that we will remove the bearings by using the special bearing pullers. Right, the bearing pullers will be required to remove the two bearings which is attached to both the sides of our differential. Let's see one example of how to disassemble the differential, how it will look after disassembling the differential. We will see all the components of the differential. Right, you can see here on the screen that the differential has been removed from the assembly. After removal of the differential, the only part which is kept in is the bevel pinion gear. Right, the bevel pinion gear is kept in with the rear axle assembly. We don't require it to be removed from the differential axle, and so that we have kept it in the assembly. Next, we will see about all the components of the differential. You can see the cover has been removed of the differential and all the gears has been disassembled from the differential. And you can see the ring gear and the carrier has been attached till now. The bearings has been attached. Rather than that, all the four gears, the spider gears, you can see that now that they have been disassembled from the differential assembly. That and the two straps which was connected for the differential fitting has also been removed. The ring gear has two bearings on both the sides that can be removed with the help of the special puller. The bearing is covered by a special hub which you can see on the screen right now, that the hub is used to cover the bearings, and on the left and right side of the hub, on both ends of the hub, there are number of shims. Now the number of shims work as a washer. The function of that washer is to provide the required spacing for the differential. That washer is used whenever the backlash is generated in the differential. The detail of the backlash will be discussed in the later part of this video, but you can see that these shims will be used to adjust the distance between the ring gear and pinion. Where the ring gear and pinion should contact will be adjusted with the help of those shims. This you can see is the cross pin which goes in between the hole of those spider gears. Right. Next thing is to inspect all those things which we have disassembled. We will wash all the parts first. They need to be cleaned whenever we are removing. We will replace the gaskets and the seals. Right. This is always needs to be done. The gaskets whenever used and the seals whenever provided needs to be removed from the system, and that has to be replaced whenever we overhaul the component. And if they consist of gasket and seals, then it has to be replaced. Then we will thoroughly wash all the parts except the seals in the solvent. Right, seals, if we are going to use the seals once again in the system, then the solvent can damage those seals. So we will not wash them in the solvent, we will only wash it in the water-based solution. Next thing is we will inspect all the gears and pinions if there is any damage in the teeth, or if the spline has been damaged, if any burrs or the scale has been formed on the screen, then it can be cleaned easily. If there are any damage in the gears and pinions, then they need to be replaced. Next thing that we will inspect the bearing cups and cones. The bearing cups that is connected and the outer side will be inspected. The bearing cups will be inspected for the wear or any scratches. If there are any damage, then the bearing cups can be replaced. And the last thing that we will inspect the flange, oil seal and the casing of the differential. If any part is damaged, then we will replace it. Next thing is the differential assembly. After doing the repairing procedure or after replacing some of the component, what we will do is we will do the assembly of the differential next. For that, we will make sure that all parts are clean and always we will use the new bolts for the gears. Next thing will be that we will place the thrust washers on the side gears and we will place the gears in the carrier. After placing the gears in the carrier, we will line up the pinions with the side gears and we will place the thrust washers under the pinions. Next, we will roll both the gears until the pinions are in place. We will place the shaft in the hole in carrier, align the hole in the shaft with the hole of the lock pin in the carrier. We will make sure that all the holes in the shaft and carrier are in line, and we will clean the crown wheel and the carrier surfaces. After that, we will install the pinion in the shaft, and at last we will install the differential with the two bearings on both the sides with the required number of shims in the place, and at last we will fit the cross pin in between the spider gears. Let's see one example first how to do the differential assembly. For that, we will first put the 4 spider gears in the place. By putting them in the place, we will just put the cross pin in between so that the position of those 4 gears can be adjusted by putting the cross pin. After putting the gears in the position, we will again remove the cross pin until the assembly is completed. Right? The shaft will be entered, and after that the cross pin will be entered whenever we are doing the assembly of the differential. Here you can see the 4 gears needs to be adjusted in its position whenever we are assembling the differential. Right? After putting the 4 gears in position, what we will do is we will put the cross pin in between them just to adjust the position of the gears. After the gear position has been adjusted, the cross pin will again be removed and that will be kept in position where the differential position is required. Right, so this is how the cross pin will be checked to and after entering the position of the differential spider gears. After checking the gear assembly, we will attach the cross pin and we will check its position. Now the assembly will be entered in the rear axle by keeping the bearing hubs in its place, and that assembly will be put on its place. After putting it on its place, we will put the number of shims which is required on both sides of the assembly, right, which you will be seeing in this. So he is doing that the differential assembly needs to be put on its place in the rear axle, and that will be put with the help of a bearing hubs. Right, so this is how the assembly will be kept in its place with the help of the bearing hubs. Now the next thing that is required to be done after completing the assembly is to adjust the number of shims on both the sides for the contact between the ring gear and the pinion gear. The 2 gears needs to be contacted properly for the better operation of the drive line, and the contact patch should be proper. That contact patch will be defined by the backlash which is generated between the differential gears. The next topic of our lecture is on the backlash in the differential gears. So this is how you can see that shims has been put on its place, and that shims will be adjusted just by adjusting the differential, and you can see now the assembly of the differential has been completed. Next thing is to install the rear axle. After completing the differential assembly, next thing is to install the rear axle in the reverse manner of the removal. We will attach all the components which was disassembled while we were removing the rear axle. We will remove the damaged parts if any, and we will do the proper lubrication once again in the axle. Next thing is the backlash in the differential. What is the backlash? Now backlash is called as the lash or the clearance, which is a lost motion or which is the power loss in a mechanism caused by the gaps or the clearance between the two parts in any mechanical component. In the case of the gears, it is the amount of the clearance between the two mating gear teeth. Right, in the figure you can see two types of backlash. In the top figure you can see the circumferential backlash. In that case, if you are seeing the two mated teeth, in that case there is a little bit of gap that is generated whenever the gears is being mated or it is in contact. So because of those gaps, the proper transference of the power, the transmission efficiency will not be attained, and so that backlash should be reduced and proper contact should be happening between those gears. In the bottom figure you can see the radial backlash, in which the direction of the backlash is in the radial direction, in the bottom direction. So in that case, in the radial direction the clearance is being generated, so that we need to avoid this backlash. Now in the case of the differential, the backlash adjustment can be done, and that can be done with the help of, we will mark several number of teeth at 3 places around the ground gear. After painting or after marking those gears, what we will do is we will turn the pinion around the ring gear, and we will see there by rotating both the directions the contact patch or the place from which our mark or the paint will be removed. That patch will be our value of the backlash. The next thing is that if the pattern is horizontal in the middle of the tooth and somewhat nearer to the toe than the heel, right? The gear teeth toe is at the top part, it is at the bottom part. If it is somewhat nearer to the toe and somewhat far from the heel, then our pattern is considered as ideal. The pattern which is required is, you can see in the figure, right? This pattern is the ideal pattern for the gear contact. The next thing that is to be done is that if the pattern is above the middle of tooth, then backlash is excessive. Right, in the figure you can see if it is above the middle part of the tooth, then backlash is excessive. In that case, what we will do is that we will add the shims under the bearing on the ground wheel side of the carrier, and we will remove the shims from the other side, so we can compensate for the backlash. Next thing is that if the pattern is below the middle of the tooth, then backlash is too little. The opposite thing needs to be done to adjust that. Next thing is that if the pattern is too far towards the heel on the driving side and too far towards the toe in case of the reverse side, right? You can see one is towards the heel side, that is the driving side, and one is towards the toe side, that is the reverse side, then pinion should be moved inward direction, right? In that case, pinion needs to be moved. In the previous case, we need to move the shim so that the position of ring gear will be changed. In that case, now pinion needs to be moved. The backlash adjustment for that, if the pattern is too far towards the toe on the driving side and too far towards the heel on the reverse side, then the opposite thing that is happened, then it needs to be adjusted by moving the pinion in the outward direction. Let's see one video of how to check the backlash. In that, the first you can see the dial indicator has been put on the spider gears. Now, just by a little finger pressure, we will move the indicator pointer, and that pointer will show the readings in the dial. Right, just by a little bit movement, the dial is showing a little bit movement as well. The specified value should be reached. If the wear is too much, then the dial will move for extra miles, and that needs to be adjusted by adjusting the backlash. Another method, or one better or easier method to check the backlash, is just by checking the backlash after painting our gears with a yellow or some bright color. Right? what happens by painting the gears with a bright color is that if the color is removed after the contact with pinion, then we will notice the removal of the cover easily. Right, you can see now that the gears of the ring has been painted, the number 4 to 5 gears will be painted with the yellow color. After painting the gear, what we will do is that we will rotate the differential for at least 1 turn so that the pinion will mesh with the ring gear. When the pinion meshes with the ring gear, the yellow color will be removed from the place where the pinion will mesh with our ring gear. So at which place the color is removed will show us the patch of the wear, right? Will show us the pattern of our wear that is getting happen between the ring gear and the pinion gear. Right? You can see after the rotation, the wear pattern is being created, and that wear pattern is almost in the middle, and also it is somewhat nearer to the tip of our gear, and that is the ideal position of our wear. So in this case, the contact between the gears is perfect and the backlash don't require to be adjusted. So this is how the backlash of the differential can be checked, and if required it can be adjusted by changing the number of shields that is been attached on both sides of the differential. Right, so in this video we saw about the repairing procedure of the differential and axle, and how to measure the backlash and how to adjust the backlash. In the next video, we will start the third part of our fourth chapter, that is on the maintenance and overhauling of the various systems, that is braking system, suspension, steering, etc. etc. Right, so until then, thank you so much.